this is the follow-up of a prior lecture, which is on talking about the pricing method. So how do you define your pricing? There are multiple styles to define your pricing, from the very basic method, which consists in just adding a markup, to a more complex method, which consists in analyzing the consumer perception of the benefits, and then defining those benefits in terms of value, and defining a price based on the cost-benefit analysis of the consumer perspective value of the product. At the same time, you look at the value and the perceived innovation, the perceived need. You're looking at the competitors' pricing and all of this. So all of these are the different methods to set up the price. Today, I will be talking about the strategies behind setting up this price. So these prices are going to be set up based on some objectives. Obviously, it's again thinking about what are the objectives for the company. Are we trying to launch a new product and get some momentum? Are we trying to gain market share? Are we going to try to work on the imagery of our product based on the perception of the prices? Are we going to try to launch the product in very limited areas and to do some analysis of the potential demand for the product, and maybe to develop some other functions of the product, or maybe to gauge a little bit better the pricing? So we've estimated the cost. We know where our competitors are and what are their prices. And now we have to finally select the price. So to select the price, the two sub-strategies, so these are sub-strategies. So these again could go inside the strategic alternatives that you would have for a company, but they would not be corporate strategies. Corporate strategies such as new product development, market development, diversification, operational excellence, market leadership, and so forth. These will be strategies at the product mix level, and specifically at the pricing level. And so the first one that is oftentimes defined is skimming. So what is skimming? It's this idea of selling the product for the highest price as possible. So in your methods, is you're realizing that you have a specific markup, and this markup is sufficient. Let's say your minimum is 10%, and you are above 10%, so that's fine. You also are competitive, and you are very much generating enough value that this price is not seen as being too high. But however, then there's a strategy that comes into situation is where you say, you know what, this product is new, it's so innovative that there's the potential to try to get as high as possible in order to get as much profit from selling this product. So there may not be huge profits, but there may be huge profit margin that you will want to protect at the beginning. Protecting your profit margin is very good, because as you start selling more and more products, you will have to reduce the prices, and you have more and more competitors entering the market, which again will reduce your prices, and your margin will be hurting. And therefore, it is good to anticipate this by having the price as high as possible at the beginning. But you can only have a high price if you have a high value, and you can have a high value if you have also a strategy of innovation inside your company. So if you don't have a product leadership, if you're just another product and nothing really differentiates you with your competitors, it is very difficult to have a market skimming, because you're going to be perceived as being too high in prices. So the counter strategy of that is called market penetration pricing. Market penetration pricing is when you cannot have a high price because your product is very similar, not really innovative, not differentiated. There's nothing that separates it. That could be one reason. Another reason is that your product is better, but you are consciously define and select a price which is lower for the sake of having making it harder for your competitors to compete with you. So you come up with a product, it's better, it's more innovative, and it's the same price, even cheaper. So your competitors, if they enter the market, they're going to be a little bit demotivated because they're going to have to enter a market later, with a price which is going to have to be the same or less. Or they're going to have to come up with something that is better, but that's going to cost them more money. So it's make it very uncomfortable. So you could use consciously to use penetration pricing, but you have lost some of the profit by making a product with a lower price. So it's a little bit dangerous because there is always the question about what if we sold it for more? How long would it have taken for the competitors to enter the market? How much benefit we would have made during that period that if we sell it for less now, we are not going to make? So there is a dilemma. And so you want to think about the likelihood of them entering, the necessity for you to get as much of the distribution, the channel, and control of the channel of distribution. And also you have to think about the impact, the negative impact that it has on your company by starting a new product that is better with a lower price. And also the fact that this may decrease the life cycle of the product, in the sense that the life cycle will be shorter, in the sense that you will disinvest from the product faster than if you had started with higher margin. Having lower margin will make the product less profitable at a sooner stage. Other strategies that are used in the product mix for pricing are product line pricing. Product line pricing is this idea that you have products, and there are products with different characteristics, different functions, different benefits. So you have like the basic model, and then you have improvements to that model with added benefits. And these added benefits allow you to price the product differently. So in this situation, here is a set of drums. You will have different finishing on the drums, a different type of material that we'll be using on the drums, which will justify a different type of pricing. Same product, different price, because different quantity of functionality and functionalities. This is a very common, if you think about the automotive industry, where they would have one body with different engines. And so the same body with the smallest engine will be more affordable than the same body with a bigger engine. And then when you would have a bigger engine, there will be other added benefits to the product to justify the price increase. So other strategies are relating to the product mix pricing is optional product pricing, which means that you make money from everything, but you make a significant larger amount of money from the accessories, from the options that you sell with the product. So you sell a guitar, for example, and the guitar case is part of your optional product pricing, and you make money out of this. Captive product pricing will be like the string that you're using for the guitar, or maybe the amplifier that you will use with the guitar, where you will be making a smaller margin. Let's say you sell the guitar $250, but of $250, even though that's a big amount, you only make 12%. Whereas the case, which you sell $50, you make 25%. So in that situation, there is a different motivation behind the margins, depending if it's an option or if it's captive. So captive pricing, an example of captive pricing that is very much used in the industry in not so ethical way are the printer, for example. where they would sell the printer at $100, and then they would give you free cartridge, and very soon after you'll have to go to the store and buy some other cartridges, and then you'll find that the cartridges are $50, and they, let's say, last you for a month. And so the company would be making very little profit by selling printer, but they will be making much bigger profit by selling cartridges. And so the captive product pricing strategy is really the one that sustains the growth of the company more than the product, which seems to be the core product that you're selling. Any questions so far?
No, perfect.
Okay. So then byproduct is in a situation where you are making a core product, which is what your company is supposed to make. And then in the process of making this product, there is a leftover or there is a byproduct being produced. And then product pricing is the idea that you can offer this, what's left over, at a price and still make money from this. So you have a gym and it's used during the night. Maybe you could have sort of what you could call a byproduct pricing, where you could use the gym in the morning for something else. I remember when I lived in Australia, one of my favorite restaurants was inside a church, actually. And it was church in the morning and restaurant at night. And so the kitchen of the church was not used, but then the priests, I guess, was very smart. He turned the kitchen into a restaurant kitchen and was renting it out to someone that used the space that was not used during the night for a restaurant. And that's sort of a byproduct of the situation. When in my industry of wine, is we have a byproduct, which is the seed and the skin, which there's there's nothing we can do, or until someone's thought of something. But you can reuse these to make some fertilizer, or you can reuse these to make another type of alcohol, which is called a liquor made from the pomace, which means made from what's left over after you make wine. So one of the most famous liquor for that is called grappa, which originally comes from Italy, but you can make grappa as well in America. It's one of the only countries that allows the people to make a product which is protected everywhere else. So you can make grappa in Italy and in America, but you can't sell the American grappa in Italy. They don't let them come in. But that's made from the leftovers. It's made from the skin after you make the wine. Normally before, you had to pay for someone to come and pick up this leftover. Now you actually have someone paying you to pick it up, because then they turn it into some kind of hard liquor. And you can, and that's what they do also in the industry, is now you can turn it into alcohol for making sanitizers. And so that's what they're doing at least in the Cognac region, where I make one of my products, where the distillers are actually turning these leftovers and leftovers type of products into alcohol for hand sanitizers. Product bundling is another type of pricing decisions, where you think of making a price for a combination of products, and this combination and the price of that combination is cheaper than the individual price of the product. So if you sell a toothpaste, it's $2. If you sell a toothbrush, it's $1. If you sell a toothpaste and a toothbrush, it should be 2 + 1 = 3. But in this situation, you make a product bundling, where you make people to buy both together for $2.50, so they save 50 cents. You could do it in a way that it's a multiple of the same. So it could be 2 toothpaste, 3 toothpaste together, and therefore the price would be, instead of 2 by 2, 4, it would be $3 for 2 toothpaste. So product bundling is also very useful, because you can foster people to buy more of your products. Why should they buy more of your products? One is because you want them to become familiar with the brand, and the more they consume the brand, the more they may be familiar, or more familiar, therefore they like it better because they get used to it. And then the habits becomes just what they do. It's easier for them to do that. Or it may be that they don't buy because they don't know it very well, and they have maybe a negative perception, or maybe it's a new product, and therefore you use this in order to launch some kind of innovation, a new product, as a sample or as a full size product. Product bundling may be used to reduce inventory. There's something that you have too much, and therefore the best way to sell this excess inventory is to offer it into a bundling. So more of the same, or more of some of these products that you can't sell very well with some product that you sell very well. So people are attracted by the product that they know well, and then they end up finding that it's a good deal. It's a package deal, and therefore they will go for it. But this can be true not just for goods. It can be true for services, where people get more concert tickets because they buy a season pass, or sports event. They buy a season pass for the Dodger Stadium, and if you count the number of tickets you have versus the price of the normal ticket, you will be saving. So it's a motivation for people to support and buying more. Costco, I mean, their business is all based on that. So what are other prices, allowances you have? If people pay cash, they have a discount. The more people pay, the more they have a discount, depending on when do they buy. So it could be when during the week, or it could be when during the season. There is a different price on the time, during the weekend versus during the week, depending if they are trading something back, depending if they have a coupon, or if they have some kind of frequency of buying, where after a certain amount of purchase, they get something for free. Another way to define and separate your pricing is by looking at who you're selling it to. So we're selling it to younger people versus older people, students versus staff, different incomes. So different way to segment people give you an opportunity to sell the product at different prices. Different locations. So you sell a Coke bottle at the airport is different than in a concert venue, which is different than in a nightclub, which is different than on campus, which is different than a vending machine. So you'll have adaptation of the prices depending on where you sell it. And then different form of the product. So this Coke bottle comes into a plastic can, aluminum can, and a glass can that can be recycled. So all of these differences of the product, the location, the type of customer, but also, I mentioned this before, the time of purchasing the product will have an impact on this, the final price. Now there are pricing specific activities that you can have. So the first one that is very common in the US is called loss leader. Anyone knows what is a loss leader?
Costco food court.
Costco food court.
Yeah, they sell those at a loss to get you in the door.
Yes, exactly. So the loss leaders are things that people buy, but usually it's something that is very appealing, and that gets the people to start the process of shopping. So you, like you mentioned, the food court in some places where they don't make that much money, or maybe even lose money, but then that gets the people in the location, and then they buy. This is spring, and you want to get people attention, and so you're going to sell garden furniture and new barbecues and those kind of things. And then some of these are going to have an incredible price, and sometimes they even mention on somewhere, 3 per store, until all sold out, limited number available, one per buyer or something like this. And these will be lost leader. People will go to the store and very few people will be controlling themselves to buy something else. So they will be there, they will buy the loss leader, which will be sold lower than cost, and they'll buy something else. Special event pricing, as the name says, this is a special event that you do when you have a special price. Cash rebate is another one. Special situation where they've low 0% interest, something like this, or low interest. They give you a longer warranty. They give you extra free merchandise, or they give you just some sort of discounts for buying more products. Now there's the concept of psychological pricing that I want to talk about. So psychological pricing is this idea that you use the price for people to perceive something. So the higher the price can be, the more likely people will perceive that it's more quality. So you want to identify what is the value of the product, but what would be the highest price that we can sell it to, and what would be the price also that they will perceive that this is a price for something that's high quality versus this is the price for something that's low quality. And when you set up the price, is you also want to think about the image of the price as it is. The difference between $14.99 versus $15. $15 is perceived as much more than 1 cent more expensive than $14.99. So psychologically, people feel that it's much less. So this 1 cent that you remove is perceived as $1 almost that you remove. So that will have added psychological benefits. But also giving people the suggested retail price or some kind of average price that the product sells is sort of motivating them to purchase the product. Another thing is the way you give them discounts. 10% off is not as good as 20% off, but up to 50% or up to 35% is perceived as higher, even though it didn't say it was going to be 35%. It says up to 35%. So these are regulated terms which are obviously trying to protect the consumer for not being misled. But on the other hand, the consumers are reacting psychologically when they see those kind of pricing offers. And not everything can be protected. So $14.99, that's very good. Giving them some comparative prices, that's very good. And then using the up to a certain percentage. The problem is when you say to up to 35% off inside a store, and then there's only one product that is 35%, and everything else, the average is like 11%. That's a little bit, for sure, it is misleading because it should be a large proportion of the product that are sort of this 35%, which means why you say the up to. And if you don't do this, there you're sort of abusing of that number in order to mislead people. So now pricing can be very negatively influencing your business if you change too much your prices. There are some businesses that the price is the same all year long, and that's good for them, but that's very difficult to have because you need to have a real powerful brand with a lot of brand loyalty in order to do that. Most brand cannot do that. Most brand, meaning 99% of the brand, cannot do that. So what do? You try to not change your price too frequently. You try not to give reduction of prices too frequently as well. If you change your price too frequently, businesses think that you go in good and bad days, and therefore you are in a situation where you may not be a business that is very stable, and they don't like that. If you make too many discounts, they think that you may be a business going to go down, or you may be a business that sells a product sometimes too expensive, and therefore they're going to look for the times where you're going to give the discount. So they're going to wait for discounts before they buy. Another problem is if you don't do any discounts, you may be in a situation where you don't really stimulate people. And there's some people that they are borderline trying your product, and that may be the opportunity for them to try the product. And once they try the product, then they become fan. So you have to create those stimulus. You can be in a position where you wait. You can be in the position where you say, you know what, I'm going to do more direct communication, what we call push and pull strategies. So I'll talk about this after in the next class. But you spend some time and you don't have the time. You want business to go faster, and to go faster, it's either large advertising, communication, but that's expensive, and you don't have a really good control about the money that you spend and the return on your investments, which you have much more control when you do reduction of prices. Because you sell the normal prices, you know your sales, then you reduce the price by 10%, then you know your sales. You lost 10%, but how much more did you make? It's a more reliable way of finding out the results of your losses, of your investments, rather, I want to say. So when you're a small business, you can blow your money very fast. And if you look at the program Shark Tank, and when they talk about the businesses that they invested in, and it was a disaster, oftentimes they would tell you is the people that they gave money, and the minute they had money, they went through it very quickly. Money is very quickly spent. So therefore, giving discounts, that you don't want to do that. But if you do it, it's because you're trying to reach out to some customers and grow your market share, and that there is a real purpose. You don't want to do it too often. You don't want to do it as a permanent thing. Is you want to do it because you have a purpose, and it's a sales objectives. So the next takeaway from this is that what are the major strategies for pricing? So you have skimming and penetration. What are the other strategies you have? Optional, captive, bundled, and byproduct. Is there such a thing as a psychological pricing? Yes, based on the price that you give, people may see it's more, it's less. Therefore, that could be good for the quality perception. But it could be also that you can sort of help them feel more comfortable by setting the price with a 99 cents type of addition to the price. And that would make it perceived much lower. How often do you change your pricing? The least as possible. You only do it because you have to, or because you exactly know why you're doing it. So you're doing it because you have a sales purpose. You're doing it because you have a market share purpose. You're doing it because there's a specific target purpose, because there's a time purpose, because maybe you have to survive, or maybe because you have a competitor that also made some changes in their prices, and therefore you have to follow by making some changes. You make the same change, you make less percentage change. All of this is very important. We'll talk about it again in two sessions when we will be talking about the P for promotion, which has to do with communication. This concludes this lecture on pricing strategies.